Hey guys, welcome. We are here at Pax South. Khrolan, myself, and they have a somewhat version of 3.5, I guess we're probably going to call it. So for those that don't know, this is Archeage. This is an MMO sandbox that is massive. You can pretty much do whatever you want in it. You got trading, you got a player run economy, you got PvP, open world, you got raids, you got dungeons. It's pretty much everything and anything you can think of in MMO. I think that describes Archeage pretty
There's
much.
definitely a lot of stuff you can do in Archeage, and the build that we have right here is our February build with the Thunderwing Titan. It's not quite 3.5 yet.
Okay, well, let's get in there.
I like your beard.
Oh, yes, I like your beard
Okay,
too. You
nice.
know,
Good.
we're representing the doors here.
We are.
So,
Even though we don't
I
play
actually,
that.
yeah, I play more. All right, so we're just gonna jump in. So 3.0 launched in December.
Yep.
And we're still seeing a lot of like issues here and there. We have 2 new North American servers. They're both, believe currently it's still at 600% capacity, or did you lower that at all?
So our 3 fresh start servers, including Prophecy from Europe, are the 3 largest Archeage servers in the world. So they are under a very large amount of load, as you saw with release. I would say that the amount of players that tried to play at release was about 5 times our expectation. So I mean, we had a great response, and with that came some technical issues with regard to load.
Yeah, definitely a lot. And the one thing that I was like, I know we talked about having multiple servers ready, and like it was great. You gave a second North American server, seeing the demand there, and then I was always like, why didn't you do a third? And it's like, I get the reasoning, but can you go over it again for more people?
For sure. I mean, you'll remember that when we announced the second server in North America, it was a split bag. Some people were super excited about it, other people were not. And it depends kind of what part of Archeage you're from. You know, the PvPers were very for having only 1 server. But we saw just the estimation of the amount of people that wanted to play. So we had a vengeance waiting in the wings, and we decided to give it a go. As you can see now, both servers are crazily populated. The reason we didn't do a third is original Archeage founders will remember what we call Cluster 3. Cluster 3 were the servers that were merged very early due to not having a large population. They were brought online due to the increased traffic from launch. But really, since Archeage is kind of an open world, community-centric game, if those players, attrition over time, those servers end up dying very quickly. So we decided to have the higher capacity on our existing servers and push them to the limit, rather than having those other servers that can't maintain the acceptable level of population.
Yeah, and I totally get that. That's like a super valid reason and everything, but like what I bring up is like the third section of servers, you released 3 at the time, like at one time, which is just like, I know you had a massive population there at launch, but it was just really overkill. And if you just did 1 and then phase it, like, okay, maybe that one's too popular, then release the second one, like going that way, I think the population would have been a lot like evenly distributed there, would have been smoother, and you wouldn't have had as many issues, and you realize maybe 1 or 2 was enough, right, but not 3.
Yeah. I think just from a numbers perspective, all of our fresh start servers have a population now that we're comfortable with. And I think that if we have that third server, it might not be at that state in 2 to 3 months. And I would rather endure the situation we have right now with the higher capacity instead of having to risk a merge for fresh start early.
So are we going to keep the higher capacity like moving forward? Has it been slowly decreasing over time, or is it still at that like same 600%, I guess what you said?
Right, so it's the same amount of players that still play Archeage, but they don't have as long of a session as they did when it initially released. So players are cycling with shorter session times, which means there are not as many players on the server simultaneously as there were when it released. But we do, the numbers are pretty flat right now. The same amount of people that tried it at release and were successful at logging in and playing Archeage are still doing that now.
Nice, so you're not seeing too much of a decline in the new servers?
We're not at all, and the reason why I think is because of, I'm sure you've seen it as you've played, we really tried to lengthen the initial period of Archeage, and you see people, running GHA, dungeons are kind of in meta right now.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody X up for Greater Palace Cellar until this release.
Oh yeah, that was crazy. Everyone is Greater Palace Cellar, go!
But people are loving the, upgrade to Celestial for the armor. It's pretty easy to get set, and I think that, at launch everybody was rushing Hostile at tier 2 and then eventually tier 3.
Which is mind-blowing, like why Hostile, like people haven't run Hostile since like 1.0.
Absolutely.
But then it was all these 1.0 players that were coming back, they're like, oh, Hostile's the thing to do, Hostile's the thing to do. and then it slowly went to this meta of like the greater dungeons, greater dungeons.
Once people found out that you can upgrade them to Missong weapons.
Yeah, they're like, holy shit, this Arya autograph thing is like OP, how come it's in here?
Yeah.
So that brings to the other point is that a lot of people were like concerned about the Perda statues or Perdita statues,
Perdita
and then
statue,
the Arya's autograph, like, because those two things are extremely powerful, especially on the new server. What were your thoughts on that? Like, did you know like how impactful these things would be, or just what were your thoughts on
Sure.
these?
So let's talk about the Arya's autograph first. When we were released originally, like I mentioned, people chased Hostla. Fresh start last year, I'd say a lot of people rushed Obsidian. This year, we still kind of want to change it around every year because our Archeage is at a different spot. And you know, there wasn't a lot of dungeon running at all in Archeage before. So we thought it was appropriate for this time around. Now, one of the other criticisms we've received about Archeage in the past is that to get a celestial grade weapon, or a weapon that's competitive, takes a lot of effort with regrading, and there's a lot of RNG in that system. So I felt that it was important to have an alternate method to acquire something to be competitive that a free-to-play player or a paying player could get, and that was the logic behind Arya's autograph. Now moving on to Perdita statues. We love the undersea treasure hunting.
Yeah, it's really cool. Undersea treasure hunting, amazing.
Yeah, it's one of our favorite mechanics in the game, but unfortunately it's also the most botted mechanic in the game. We've developed methods internally to catch people who are trying to abuse those systems. And you know, some people will see 2 Perdita statues looted in a very short amount of time. We have a team, it's basically our investigatory GMs, looking for Perdita statues, and they review every time one's caught. A lot of times, if it is a bad actor, they remove any gains from it. But we've even seen some cases where players have killed the person who's done it and turned in the trade back for themselves.
Nice.
If I could go back and do it again, I would probably reduce the value of the Perdita statues if we were doing Fresh Start again. But you know, we try to kind of gather all of those areas, those ships, hero system, reduce the gold input from there, and Perditas are one of the ones that slip through.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good though. Like, do you have roughly a percent of how many people get like, oh, they're like cheaters and you catch them doing the Perditas? Is it like 10%, 5%? Or do you have...
I don't have hard numbers on that, but I know I would say it was more aggressive, closer to when we released, less aggressive now. More legitimate players are finding Perdita statues now. One thing that we are adding, and we probably just added, I wasn't at home when we did the January build, but there's now a level requirement on discovering those.
Yeah, that just went live a couple
January
days ago.
Update, yeah.
So that's good. I mean, I wish that was there in the beginning too.
Yep.
And then the other thing, people had questions about majestic trees in the Fresh Start servers, because that's a shitload of logs. Like, I mean, the first tree that came out, like, that was my plan. Instead of land rushing this time, it was all majestic trees, get those damn vocation badges, get as much as I possibly can, and then, like, the servers went down for a couple days, and I was like, I was gonna stack this vocation expertise tonic, and then double down and get the 10% bonus for this, and then I'm like, oh, server's down. And so, like, I got it, like, day 5 or day 6, and it was still insanely good. The first chop, the logs were selling for about 30 gold a log, and you get 1,000 logs, so that's 300 gold, I think.
And you don't even care about any of
like,
the
I don't care anything else. Like,
yeah.
I'm just boom, 300 gold, boom, and that was like day 7 on the server. And then I actually got 2 chops on that one. I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing. But a lot of people were concerned about how many logs brought into the game.
It's a fair concern. If we're playing, if you could do it over again, I would probably remove them for release. I think one of the logic there in between us and XL was we're leaving the solar farm available for Gilda. We need a way for people to gain majestic trees and mining drills so they can take advantage of that farm space. As you know, solar farm, lunar farm, stellar farm are the only farms that can support those types of things. But you know, the non-public land, public land uproot meta is a thing, and if I could do it again, I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, if the majestic tree didn't just like instantly chop for 1,000, I think it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Because majority of those trees that you plant in the wild, they get killed. Like, it's so stupid. It's like there's a bajillion-dollar tree right here, and you uproot it. Like, oh my god! Like, just leave it and then contest. Because I put them in PvP zones, because generally it's safer there. And then, like, okay, I'm decently geared, somewhat in the beginning of the server, and like PvP. If someone wants to fight for it, we'll fight for it. If not, you know, you get 1,000 logs, great. But people uproot it, and I'm just like, oh, why? Leave it.
You're very passionate about that.
I am very, well, those trees that was my money. That's how people ask, like, and now I'm giving it out. Like, I made my money mainly through majestic trees in the very beginning of the server. Because again, I got a couple chops actually on the majestic trees and 1,000 logs, and it actually got up. The first chop was about 30, and then like day 1 or day 2 after the second shop, the log prices got even higher to like 45, and it was like, whoa, and then it just tanked after that. So it was really, really good, and that was my go-to, and that's why I built a character just for logging, because even now, majestic trees are still actually really good money if you have a high logging proficiency. It cost me only 420 labor to chop, and I get 1,000 logs, and that's about 4 to 5 silver per labor on a chop. And that's pretty good for just chop. And then the Earth Mana Leaves still sell good. And that's one of the reasons I think that like maybe XL Games is like, we have to have them in the game, is because Earth Mana Leaves are actually used for a lot of crafting now, especially the Ionod designs. They use a ton of those.
They're also
and then the grinding scrolls, I believe.
Yep, and the like an upgraded tradesman's house. The daily quest requires Earth Mana Leaves on it.
So like these Earth Mana Leaves are used for a lot of things.
Yep.
And it's like, the only other way to get them is the woodlots, but the woodlots is 180,000
Right.
or well, maybe a little bit lower for the smaller ones.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, definitely. I would love to see those out of the game next time, but I can see why they're in the game.
Yeah. So personal opinion, do you think releasing mining drills in majestic trees at a higher amount of vocation would have been okay?
Oh yeah, higher vocation.
A vocation priced more in line with the benefit of the item.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it should have
fair.
been like, it's 18,000. It should have been 180,000, I think.
Yeah.
Like an insane amount of vocation badges, because it's so worth it. And then it totally just destroyed the log prices. Like literally, logs were really cheap in the beginning. People weren't building anything. They were like, I was shocked, like 7 to 10 silver for a log. And then it started to climb up after about a week. People started to like, okay, I'm building a clipper, I'm building a house, like I'm getting into the meta of building stuff, and land rush is over, and now we're building, and so the log prices just skyrocketed, but it was only there for maybe 3 or 4 days, then now, because the majestic trees started coming in.
I agree.
So, and then with that becomes more illegal farms for thunderstrucks, and then like contesting over those. Like you still see it, but it's not as contested anymore. I chopped a whole like 300 rubber trees the other day, and no one was there. And it was out just in Tiger Spine Mountains, like pretty easily findable, and no one was there. It was like, okay, my buddy's like, hey, you got logging? Yeah, go log. I'm like, all right, chop, 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 chop. No one. And I was like, wow. But
Did you get any natural rubber?
oh, out of like the 300, we got about 17 natural rubber.
Wow, that's pretty good.
So he was building
Almost
a car.
entire.
Yeah, he was building a car, and he was very happy with that. So those things. Any other changes that you do for like potential new fresh start?
I probably can't recite all of them off the cuff, but there has definitely been things that I would have done differently. You saw the initial family trade pack run being 10 gold. A level requirement was added to that. That probably would have been done a little bit differently. I think family sport fishing is another thing that just kind of, since people have so many alts available, might need to be rebalanced based on that. I have about 12 other items that are similar to the things that we're talking about that are next time we do Fresh Start, make sure you consider these things. And that's the same way I did it this year. We took our laundry list from the 2.0 version and tried to do good by a lot of those things.
Yeah, and you did a really good job with generally what it was just kind of like all the new content in the
That's
3.0 that was just like, we didn't think about that.
Well, it's a big job, you know, so.
So like with the trade pack for the family quest, 10 gold was a lot, especially the first couple days. But again, you added a level requirement on it. It was just a little bit too late on that type of thing because people started to kind of like, not, I guess necessarily bot would be the right word, because then follow
spam accounts.
Yeah, spam accounts, and because 10 gold in the first couple days was a good chunk of money. Yeah, I think you did a fairly good job with the Fresh Starter, and I think you're seeing the population like accepting that too, and realizing like this was a pretty good launch game-wise, except for maybe system-wise, disconnects, gray screens, things like that. So then that goes
challenges, but yeah, I'm really happy where gameplay ended up this time around.
So then that brings into the next question of, I know we talked a little bit earlier about the consensus many people have about XL Games Trial Worlds being incompetent. Every single patch has had tons of issues, and like there's bugs that are from other regions. Specifically, there was the oh man, I can't pull it off the top of my head. What was it? The lockbox exploits that I guess was in Russia, and then they patched it there, and then it came over to our version, but it wasn't patched in our version. Like, how come those things slipped through? Like, what's going on there?
I mean, a lot of that has to do with just managing builds properly. Sometimes the way teams are segmented for multiple publishers, those aren't immediately relayed cross-region. I think Tryon could do a better job of being more aware of what's going on with the other publishers since they go first. We do catch a lot of those sorts of things. Some of them get through, and then we just react on them. One thing that people don't really know is when an exploit like that is happening, we have a lot of logging and systems in place that we catch those people very early, and we see what they do through the entirety. And then when the issue is ultimately patched and fixed, we go back and either reclaim, ban, or process disciplinary action against abusing those sorts of things. You don't always see it from the public perspective because we don't announce, but maybe you've been in a Discord with somebody who's been disciplined from doing something like that in the past.
Yeah, definitely, like, because I followed that market fairly well because I was trying to make the keys for that market, and then the lock boxes were getting up to 30 gold for like the copper ones, and it was like, why is the copper one more expensive than the silver key one? And the silver keys were out there, but I guess people were doing it. And the thing is that, like, it didn't seem to really affect the economy that much. It seems like you did do a decent job of cleaning it up, but I mean, what people are concerned is like, how do you clean up the process of, like, you're monitoring them, but then they spend the gold to an auction house and they buy other things. It's like, it becomes really a slippery slope as the gold starts getting into the game or the items start getting into the game. Like, how far do you take it to remove said items from the game?
I agree, and it depends on the severity of the amount of items that have been trafficked. So we can track all of that stuff, but again, if it goes to legitimate players, we remove the gains that maybe the person who was selling it obtained from trading those items off to legitimate players. Cleanup is never perfect. We do the best job that we can there. I think, it's just we kind of have to analyze whatever situation occurred and do the appropriate thing there. We've gotten better at it. It's happened a few times, you may know that. But we're in a place now where we're better at catching that stuff.
I do give you guys props because it has gotten better. The problem with this launch was just the whole tech issues and like the gray screens, which you still even see now. And that's why you guys were doing the server restarts every couple days, is to help fix the gray screens. So there was an answer for a question there. They do the server restarts because every about 48 hours they say that it kind of gets janky and then more gray screens appear. So it definitely does help, and it does help with the lag and stuff as well, right? When you restart the servers and everything. So those are good things, but it does kind of sucks when there's downtime every single day. And is there anything that like XL or you guys are working on to try and fix this whole as a whole? Like, can you tell us what's going on there? Or?
Sure. Absolutely. So we've discovered a lot of things about the way Archeage works at scale with the 3.0 release. The gray screens, like you mentioned, is one of those things. It's hard for Tryon to interact with a situation like that because we're really dependent on XL's reviewing it. So what XL has been doing is adding more logs to establish what the problem is and ultimately find a resolution to it. Now, some of the things that you've seen persist past the original period of the release are due to just them not being a trivial fix, taking a lot of effort, changing the way Archeage works to support it. So regretfully, we have to have those 2-day restarts until they find and fix the problem.
Then I know one of the other big concerns people have is like customer support. There's so many issues that come out, especially with any big launch, and it just seems like that you're understaffed, like greatly understaffed. Not just like, oh, we need 1 or 2 more people, but like sitting in a queue for customer support, like sending someone like, hey, I have a problem, and then you're like, okay, you get the automatic response, and they're like, we'll get back to you when it's your turn. But then waiting like 7 days, it just like, as a player, as a consumer, that's just like, it's gut-wrenching, and it's like, it's like they don't care about me. It's like, how come there's not enough staff? Like, how come, are you guys hiring more staff? Like, what's the process there, and like, why is it taking so long?
I think it just comes down to the amount of people playing overall, and us not originally expecting that type of response for it. We thought 3.0 was going to do great. We didn't think it was going to do, as high volume as it did. So when it comes down to customer support, I agree. It is difficult to wait that long for a response. But I mean, the nature of Archeage is extremely complex. There are a lot of things that need to be worked on. I know sometimes within customer support, due to Archeage having a lot of in-depth systems, maybe that ticket needs to be escalated to somebody who knows how to review that system. So there's time transitioning between agents. But you're right. I mean, I think we could do a better job as well. Reducing those hold times and getting faster answers.
Are you guys trying to like actively hire and train new customer support as you go along? Because obviously you're saying Archeage is being successful, and then I don't know. I mean, legacy servers. I don't know what you want to say about legacy servers, because to me it seems like they are dying. Like the land, there's like no housing out anywhere. There's a lot of talks about like surge of transfers, and especially transfers now because they're stuck on the servers and they can't really go anywhere. So are you adding new people? Like, has Archeage been successful for Triumph Worlds?
Absolutely, it has been successful and continues to be. I mean, it's a game that I feel like successful from just the amount of people who play it and also from a revenue perspective. Back to customer support, your original question, I think it's more of ensuring that all of our support resources have the ability to work on Archeage rather than just randomly hiring. I know that, from an outside perspective, if you see a problem like that, the immediate response is just hire. In business, it's a little bit more complicated than that. So it's easier for us to ensure that all of our resources that are available in customer support are capable of handling Archeage. Now, moving back to legacy servers, you're right. There is a situation where some of the older legacy servers, even some of the greatest legacy servers, are on the lower end of what's acceptable, and even falling into the territory where it's just a very low population. So one thing we'd like to see is character transfers for Legacy are right around the corner. We've made a lot of progress even in the last 3 days over it. Again, I mentioned on a live stream that's the delay in transfers has been due to just kind of back and forth with XL trying to make it work with 3.0. But since we're offering them for 1 credit for 1 week, I feel like it's really going to shake up the atmosphere of legacy servers, and it'll give us a clear idea of what the landscape looks like after that. And then we can make decisions on, if we stay in the current path, or if we consider, how we handle those legacy servers that are lower population.
Yeah, because that's going to be rough. Because you can tell the whole population, like, hey, I'll go to Kairos or Morpheus. But then it's like the people that are on the older servers that are kind of like low population. You're just like, I don't want to move because I got land there and I got stuff there and I like my spot. It's like it's a really tough situation there. So that would be very interesting. The 1 credit transfers though he's talking about, when transfers come back on, they're going to be 1 credit for 1 week. Any thoughts on maybe extending that a little bit since it's been almost 2 months now for transfers, like maybe doing a 2-week 1 credit?
The reason we picked a week is when we released transfers originally, we saw that the bulk of the transfers happened in the first 3 days. And then we'll probably do an outbound mail to people or something like that, letting them know that it's available for 1 credit. So I'm going to try and get everybody to move within that week period. I think we're kind of set in that time frame for now.
With that though, I see this problem of like having too many transfers coming in and then not having the support or technical assets to kind of do all that at once, and then in a sense like crashing the system. It's all automated, right? Or
it is, and transfers can actually handle a very high volume of transfers simultaneously. And I think the amount of people that will be transferring on legacy servers is manageable with the current system.
Okay, but concerned though, like if there is issues, do you think it might be possible to extend that to like 2 weeks?
I would have to address that when there were issues.
Okay, so that goes into something else, like with the compensation. Like you guys have offered a compensation package early on, about a month ago now maybe. It was really good. Actually, I had 15 days of Patreon, some warrior medals, some air badges. A lot of people actually enjoyed it, thought that was a good compensation package. And then we continued to have the issues, and then we're going on almost 2 months now. We had a 1-day compensation package, and a lot of people, even myself, were kind of like, I'm not even logging into Glyph to claim that 1-day compensation package. And then when I did, just like, whatever, I'll log in, I didn't have the 1-day patron, so it was like half the compensation was there, and then I had a contact support, and it's like, I got 9 accounts, so like contact support with all 9 accounts to get your 1 day, and I'm like, it's not worth contacting support on 9 accounts to get my 1 day of patron. I know you're working on a bigger compensation package. Was there thoughts of doing, because what I think would be appropriate for this is like every week that the server is continuing going on, giving it like a smallish but a decent one, like 1 day patron with like 20 warriors medals, 20 merit badges, like 2 workers compensations, like that, like a list of a tiny amount of things, but just to thank you for continuing playing our game. And then as the thing finishes, giving out the larger big Khrolan special compensation package.
So let's talk about all of those points. I think the first one to talk about is the satisfaction behind the compensation package. While I appreciate you saying that you liked it, I would say an equal amount or more people said it wasn't that good. And so one of the challenges we face is, sure, we can shotgun warriors medals and merit badges and the things you could have accrued while the server was up, but it seems like there's an increasing amount of people that are dissatisfied with what we're handing out. even the mount. Some people did not like the reindeer, they didn't like the iron eviscerator, so we're trying different things there. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is build more of a long-term solution for compensation. It's kind of a weird thing because normally when I talk like this, it's about game systems or the localization we're applying to Archeage, something for North America or Europe. But one of the things that I've been talking to XL about is creating a specific part of the marketplace that is for compensation. There are items that are always there, and when a service interruption happens, we just give you guys tokens, and then you guys can choose what you want that's available from there. And it will have those normal things: Warriors Medal, merit badges, labor.
That would be a really good system,
right.
Actually.
And so I think that will help with some of the satisfaction issues too, because if you're, someone who plays Archeage domestically, you don't care about Warrior Medals, you can then devote those Warrior Medals and buy more labor or vocation or something like that.
That would be probably the best system that you could actually have. You get basic compensation tokens, and then you can buy whatever you want with the tokens.
So I proposed that to XL. They're on board with it, so we're just pushing it forward now. Now back to the player appreciation thing that I mentioned several times. It'll likely manifest in the form of a double everything weekend, and potentially the Khrolan Rune event on top of that, and several events that go for the course of about a week, where it just benefits across the board.
That's awesome, because I know the Khrolan Rune thing was very, very popular, and it was actually nice to see that you guys not taking credit, be like, oh, this was a compensation thing. You actually be like, no, this was a planned event. Like,
that was actually planned in December.
Yeah, so it was nice to see that you weren't like, oh, we're just gonna, no one knows it was a planned event, we're gonna say this is compensation, and actually be like, here you go. Because I mean, people would have like, okay, that's a nice compensation, because I mean, the first couple days, you're like, this thing sucked, but then they get 900 labor, they're like, damn, this thing's awesome, I got too much labor, like, what am I doing with all this labor?
Especially on fresh start, it's a big deal there.
And then for free-to-play players, it was huge, because they only get, like, max, I think, 1,400 labor a day or so.
Yeah.
And so getting 900 additional labor, it was just like, whoa, tons of labor.
I mentioned that was an event that we planned in December, and when folks, it just happened to time with when other compensation things were happening. When XL submitted that event to us, I was reading through it, and one of the Korean translators at Tryon came over to me and said, "This is your name." And I'm like, what? Because I had nothing planned with that. And they're like, yeah, it says Khrolan's Rune or whatever, Khrolan's Disc, I think it is. And so we put it in, and I was like, I'm fine with it. I kind of feel a little bit weird having my name on it. But when it came out, everybody was like, 300 labor, this is crap. And then at the end of the event, everybody was like, no, it's gone. So I think that's a popular one. We'll probably bring it back on top of the appreciation week that we're working on. So I think, for long-term sustainability, the compensation section of the marketplace is probably the best way to go. And I have confidence that we'll work that out with it. So
yeah, I definitely think that would be the way to go, because player choice is always a good thing.
Let me explain one more thing about that too. Every time we have an outage like that, we have to build the compensation pack that's claimable in Glyph. It's not an easy process. You would think it's just a matter of clicking a couple buttons and here everybody claims this. It's much more in depth, just from pulling all of the data from everybody that's eligible, making sure that it's filtered correctly, building the product, having the product claimable, flagging everybody to claim the product. It's no trivial thing. But if we were to build compensation tokens, we could have those pre-built.
Like 5, 10, 15,
right,
20,
and we can just assign them out more closely when the issue happens. You've seen compensation takes between a day or 5 days. I mean, if you remember the Constellation event forever, right? But
there's an event that is still missing compensation.
But it's tokens that we can give out on a basis that's closer to when the issue occurs.
So that goes into the compensation for the Zodiac Festival. It's never appeared, and we talked about this at Pax West actually. And it was just
one day, Jason.
One day. Okay.
One day when the stars align.
When the stars align. When the Zodiacs align.
When the Zodiac Festival comes back next year. No.
And then there's also there's a small. I guess it's small that are upset, really mad about the. What is it right here? It says the cupcake hats that were added to a previous events that, like, if you had tokens from last year, you could get, but like you can't get them anymore because no one has those tokens really. And it's like people want to use the same tokens for the new events, but you guys always new tokens, and then that goes into bag inventory space. A lot of people are hoarders, and so you got just crap load of stuff in your inventory. And it's like, I don't know what to get rid of. I want to keep this. I want to keep this. Like,
so let's talk about event coins first of all. The logic behind new coins for each season is that, I mean, if we allowed the same coins to be used on the new event, some people who didn't spend them last year or had them stockpiled would have the prize reward before anybody else who just joined the game and started playing. So we believe in cycling that currency. A lot of us at Tryon also think that those tokens should still have use even after the event occurs, and right now they don't. So I know in Korea they have a workbench that allows them to convert tokens into different types. I'm not saying that we're going to get that, but we definitely need a use for those older tokens. So that's something that we have out on the table. No definitive answer about it right now, but we realize that you have those tokens from a previous event and you want to be able to use them at least in some capacity. So.
Yeah, I think hopefully the conversion table would something.
The
like
one
that.
in Korea is like they have different events than we do, and they have a seasonal one, and the event exchanger there converted like spring tokens to summer tokens or something like that. So I know they have they've done it before, but I don't know how it would work for us.
But of course, that's probably more on like a lowish priority level.
It really is. There are definitely higher priorities than that currently.
Yeah, so then there's one big question that everyone wants me to ask about. It's like the High statue. So you know High obviously from Morpheus, I believe.
Yeah.
Where's his statue?
Well, we've been working on it. I have to say, High statue is sadly a lower priority because it is High. If it was of somebody else, we could probably get it built quicker. But High's going to have to wait. Thankfully, he has a stone staff to comfort him, or maybe that's still on Morph. I don't know. So, I mean, that's the status update. I think one day, maybe with 16.0, we'll finally have High statue.
Okay, there you go. 16.0
Whisper
High
High
statue
very fast.
confirmed. 16.0. Mark it down in your calendars, guys. All right, so back to some serious questions. The naval arena is sadly missing from our build, and I'm assuming that's probably going to be March, April, because it's not in the February, right?
I'm not going to comment on the naval arena currently.
Oh, not going to comment on the naval arena.
I'm gonna pass.
Interesting. You're going to pass on that. Okay. I guess I got to give you that. It's your first pass, so.
How many do I get?
I don't know. You tell me, how many should he get passes? So, are there any changes to the skill queue and event timers coming up at all, or in the works?
A skill tree? Sorry?
Skill queue.
Oh, skill queue. I think right now there's a group of players who remember the way it was before skill queue was available, and they still have the want for it to be different for them. I think the biggest thing is where it is now is probably the best we've ever had it, and so going back and revisiting it is a thing that we still need to do. But I don't have a lot of confidence that it's going to change much from where it is right now. We've talked about before having the ability to toggle between the old North American version and the Korean version. But I mean, right now we have a version of it that's very similar to the other regions, and I like to stay as close to them as possible when it comes to skill. So I'm not going to say that we'll never talk about it or look into it again, but I think right now what we have is the best that it's going to be for a while.
So in a sense, it'd be like a low priority as well. Kind of
it's just something that time needs to be devoted to, and I don't know how much we can affect it to get it to a place where it's better for everybody across the board.
And then, so, sort of related, skill bars. Like, we're running out of skill bars. Some people are running out of skill bars. Any info?
Good suggestion.
Good suggestion? Yeah, it definitely is a good suggestion. And then the cars. Cars have been insanely popular. So, any news on the cars?
So we talked about the S-Series car that everybody has seen in Korea. I know that we want to bring it to legacy servers. It will not be available on Fresh Start when we release it. But we want to deliver those cars, we really do. So I don't have any timetable or anything like that for you, but it's a priority for us.
So it's definitely still a little ways out.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, we need to pace things, right? Just because it was released in Korea doesn't mean they released it under the best conditions or they did it the right way. So maybe we want to use it for an event rather than just, throwing it in a lockbox or something like that, what people expect us to do with it. So
it's so hyped right now that people are like, that should be in the $150 pack. Like, I'll buy that. Like, people are like begging to like buy it for $150 right now, and that's
I think
crazy.
Only people who buy the $150 pack are saying that. And the
Probably
larger group
so.
of people who don't buy the $150 pack definitely are not saying that.
So, royal seeds has also been a concern for the community. Single seed planting goes in hand in hand with that. Are you taking note of that? Like, is there anything? Because why don't bundles provide royal seeds? Is there reasoning behind that?
I'd have to get clarification from XL on that. When it comes down to it, that's their design decision. I don't really think it's a bad thing. I actually think single planting is a bad thing for me personally because I don't have any patience to do it. I think most people are in that same boat. But the people that do have that patience, or maybe you don't have bundles yet, it at least makes what you're doing worthwhile. Because what else are you going to do? Grow like, I don't know, carrots and sell carrots? You know, like if you're not at that point in the game, there's still value to what you're doing from a game perspective.
That's true. So it makes, you know, single seed planting always kind of viable here. But yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate it. I can't stand it. I can do like maybe a row of clover and then I'm over it.
Yeah, I remember trying in 2.0 to try and be like, I'm gonna do gathering 20,000. I'm gonna plant these single seeds like nonstop. Like that's all I'm gonna do. After about an hour, I was done. I was like, no. That was like hour of cotton, no. Or hour of barley, whatever the heck the thing was. It was super quick and easy. It's like you plant it and then you harvest it, plant it on. You're like, no, I am done. I'm not doing this ever again.
The worst part is when it's maturing before you're done planting. So it's like this never-ending cycle of single planting.
That was my whole 2.0 like meta in the beginning. It was like, I'm getting 20K gathering. I'm doing this. No, I'm done.
You have a lot of patience, yeah.
Like,
I can't do it.
Like max an hour, I'm like, fucking this.
I'll deal with bundles and then buy my royal seeds.
So, people are asking like XL games. Is it possible to have a representative from them like answer questions in the forums, or is it just a language barrier? Or
it is definitely a language barrier. They do have English speakers, and some of them have gone to previous PAX events. They were at a PAX West event once. They were at Gamescom this year. But it's definitely something we like to do more of. We just need to find a format that works for them. A live stream is kind of in your face, a little bit aggressive, and while I'm fine with doing that, not everybody is, right? So we need to find a format that's good. Maybe it's a question and answer on the forums, but again, there is language barrier with that. I mean, the short answer is yes, I think we can do more by getting their responses, maybe collecting community questions and then asking them to Excel. Posting those responses, probably the easiest format to do right now.
Yeah, because I know that's one thing is like always player angst is like, oh, a lot of time it's like we're talking to XL, like that's a common answer, and it's true because you are a partner with them, so you do have to talk to them and negotiate.
They're the developer.
Yeah, and they do everything pretty much.
They have a firm grip on everything that's code related and everything systems related, mechanics related in Archeage. So when we say we're talking to XL, there's translation that's involved with that. There's time zones that are drastically different. They're asleep when we're awake and vice versa. It means a lot of late nights for me. But I mean, we do go through that process back and forth with them, and it's not just talking, it's negotiating, it's deciding on the best point. If we disagree with each other, it's, presenting facts and then making a compromise or a decision between us. So that's why things take a lot longer. On our other try-on products, whenever we see a problem like that, we have an in-house development team that intimately knows the game, has a much quicker turnaround than a third-party published title.
Yeah.
Big job, China.
It is a big job.
I'm taken aback. We've had random fans around here screaming "Big job, Trino." So there was a push to get rid of the drought of forgiveness and kind of bring the price up so you can't green pirate, and we're still seeing like the price is low. Is there more things going to be done to that to bring the price up, or how are you going to limit that? Or
what would you like to see happen? More honor for that, or remove it completely?
Personally, I don't really care, but I'm not out there really getting killed. I play, for those that don't know, I'm more of an economy specialist, play in the market, auction house, things like that. I don't actually do many trade runs because I find them boring. PvP, I suck at PvP, so I die a lot, and that's not fun for me. So I just chill out and chat and socialize and build and craft things and sell you the goods that you need to make your weapons and armors.
So what you're saying is you have a lot of social savvy?
Yes, I'm social savvy.
Okay,
yeah.
Right on. But no, we've talked about it. I think the honor price for it is a little bit too cheap, especially with the amount of honor that people get now. It's increased a lot. We've considered removing it completely, but that just creates a picking up trash meta, and I don't know if that's cool. So I think it should still be there. It just needs to cost more than it does right now.
Yeah. So you think a pretty significant increase, like maybe a 5 times increase?
I would just need to look at numbers for that.
Yeah. And then what about, we're talking honor now, what about like the arenas? Like people like 1v1s, a decent amount of people do, and then they're upset that you've got to buy bruiser badges to get in there and continue doing them. Any changes there, or maybe just making a 1v1, like no honor, just play as much as you want?
It's things that we've talked about, nothing in the short term, but there may be long-term plans in store for the arena.
Very cool. So we also have people asking about the special 8x8, the like, little scarecrows, the ones that are on the corners. I guess the green one is missing. and we don't have access to it. Is there any plans of that in the future?
I would have to consult with Amory about that. Which Scarecrow specifically?
It's the green one. I don't know. Solar.
Stellar.
It's not Stellar. Yeah, Stellar.
So the ones that are available, to my knowledge, are the Solar, and that's available for
I think
Gilda.
the blue one was available, but they said
I think it is 150 Gilda.
Okay.
For the Lunar Scarecrow Garden, that's the 8x8 blue one.
Okay.
The green one is not available. It's just the blue one and the red one. So they might be asking where the green one is.
That was they were specific, like the green one.
We'll see all of them in the future.
Okay, cool.
But again, remember, I talked about Fresh Start. I'm not introducing those for any sort of monetization until we're there.
Well, the 8x8s aren't a big deal because you can't put a reduction tree on it, and like, yeah, I don't think the 8x8 ones in the corner really.
It's still low tax placeholder land.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, low plaques.
And as you can see, we're being very conservative about that.
Well, the tax rates are actually really high. That's why we're shocked that the land filled up on the new Fresh Start servers.
Yeah.
I guess it's because the population cap is so
It's
high.
huge,
It's
yeah.
insane. And that goes into like numbers. Like people want numbers. Like I estimate like 15,000. I know you're not going to tell me how many. Am I close to concurrent players? 15,000 on the new Fresh Start servers.
I'm not going to talk numbers, but it's an amazing amount. That's all I have to say.
I tried, guys.
The best possible amount.
Any wink, anything? Like 15,000 concurrents?
The best I can say is maybe we'll try and put an infographic together for Fresh Start. We did that in the past for our 2-year anniversary and kind of just outlined all of that. But I mean, you guys see it. If you've participated in any world events, it's out of
you got
control.
multiple raids
How many
everywhere.
raids do you see for Halcyona? Like, it's nuts.
That's why when people are like, oh, there's like 3,000 players on, I'm like, you stupid. There's like 3,000 in Osteria right now. Like, and there's another capital, and then there's the pirate capital. Like,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the issues that we've seen, I mentioned, are from the load size, right? And just the number of dungeons that are spinning up because everybody's running dungeons right now is just ridiculous. Like, I can't even believe, in Archeage's history, it's out of control in comparison. As far as open world things, I remember when I was playing on Fresh Start and the first hero election cycle occurred, and immediately following that was the first hero call, and I like my gut sank because I'm like, oh my god,
shit,
everybody's
this is
gonna
gonna be bad.
end up in Marianople
Did it
or
actually,
Ostera.
like, crash
No,
right
it
there,
handled
Tom?
it. It did.
Really?
But you know, Marianople and Ostera are some of the zones that can support a lot of players just because they are hub zones. And you saw, like, even having Winter Maiden in Ostera brings the West over in a festival zone. And I was just scared of all of those things. But it handled most of that. There was some lag involved. You guys have seen it. It's lag in
definitely
Ostera.
lag. It's like, I mean, I load and then I just names. I can't see characters. I just see names. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. I'm not sitting around here because I'm lagging. I'm like chop,
Yeah.
like 5 frames per second.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's so cool. I mean, it's awesome though because this is a sandbox game, and like I think that's what was missing with 1.0 was like the dungeons weren't really there. It was all strictly like craft your gear.
Yeah.
I mean, and now we have all the different varieties. You got open world PvP events. You got dungeons. You've got crafted gear. Like you really have the flexibility to do whatever you want to gear up and to be competitive in the game. So people are asking more dungeons. Are they on the horizon at all? Any?
You know, I would have to ask XL that question. I personally don't think so because dungeons are not really a focus in Archeage. They're there and they should be used, which is what we try to do in this meta. But I don't know. I don't see why we couldn't see, you know, another 10-man raid in the future or another Miss Song style dungeon. But I don't have any good insight into what's going
Okay,
on.
so nothing soonish.
Yep, we'll have to wait for Korea to announce that kind of stuff.
But then, what about like old dungeons being buffed so people actually want to run them again? I guess kind of like the greater dungeons were in this patch. Any rebuffing them potentially? Like, I guess because people like the old dungeons, I assume.
Depending on the dungeon, I would agree with you. I think there are a couple ways we can do that, and that's by ensuring that the things there that drop items are valuable always. The drops in the dungeons are always valuable. But I think you're talking more about like a challenge level increase for those dungeons.
Yeah, I think that's what they kind of want maybe.
That's a good suggestion. I don't think it's something that we've considered for right now, mostly because we don't have a huge emphasis on those sorts of dungeons. Our emphasis is placed on open world stuff.
Also, I forgot about this. The greater Howling Abyss, I believe, has been glitched, or one of the dungeons has been bugged for like since the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like people ask, why hasn't that been fixed? Like, what's going on? It's been 3 years that hasn't been debugged. I know they debugged one of them, like the level 40 or 35 dungeon, Harridan Farm. Like, we tried to bug the boss there, and like, oh, there's a door. We can't go into the house anymore. But like, It's just things like that. Like, it's just slipped through the cracks, or what goes on there?
Not really. I wouldn't say it slipped through the cracks because GHA has always been subject to creative gameplay.
Okay. So
At release, people would stand on the ledge above Travis Godfrey and avoid the flame effect with a wings circle. People would pull that, not Musperosa, but the mini Titan thing, Balasor before him. They would pull it to the ledge and kill it from the bottom. It's always been different ways to do that in GHA. I would say the current state of it with the door blocking on a lot of those bosses is definitely not intended, but it's something we've raised as a concern, and it's not been met with a resolution, so we're just kind of like, well, have at it. Go ahead.
Creative gameplay, I like that, so, it's very cool.
You see it in every MMO, people are
they do
trying, it's the
random
nature
crazy
of solving
stuff.
a boss.
Yeah.
If you put a boss in front of somebody and tell them to kill it, they're going to find the easiest way to do it. And I can't really fault people for doing that in GHA. It's on us to change the way that works. And again, we've raised it as a concern. It's not been met with a similar level of urgency. So we just kind of let it ride.
And Missong Summit, I guess the drop rate for a chest is 0.000001. Any chance to actually get that higher, or to make it so it's like a group drop where when it does drop, everyone gets the chests?
So you wanted me to add more zeros to that? Because that was a lot of zeros. I think I have more, if that's what you're
more
asking.
zeros? Okay. So I guess people are concerned about the drop rates for those dungeons.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not running the dungeons. Do you run dungeons very often?
I do, yes. And I'm familiar exactly with what I've never gotten it.
Okay.
But I also ran Dahuda a million times and never got a Cyan Fin before the drop rates changed there. So it's just part of Archeage. If you end up lucking out into a drop, then you do. I think we're used to a lot of other MMOs that kind of just throw those things around. But it's not like that in Archeage. Although there is a possibility for it to happen. You did see it happen with Fuchsia Fin, sorry, not Cyan Fin. And also the GHA final boss drops that snake pet. Those drop rates were increased. But so, could happen.
And then there's also more Smith shards. Will they ever be changed, or they're forever doomed to having to find a group for Missong Summit hard?
I think that's the Wrathsmite shards that drop from Terrace. That's a tier 7 component. And I've mentioned that previously because Kadoom's Bark, the other equivalent to that, drops off Kadoom and is more plentiful, especially legacy servers with a shared auction house. But that's kind of the balance between the weapon types that are crafted using each of those materials. And XL, when asked this question in the past, has said that it's intended to be that way, that it is more difficult for those types of weapons to be upgraded because Wrathsmite shards are harder to get than Kadoom's Bark.
Yeah. So then people also wondering, is there going to be an Arya's autograph armor type box thing ever?
I don't know, maybe we have to put that up to public vote.
I think people really like the Arya's autograph stuff. And then
is that because they don't like RNG crafting or farming obsidian mats?
Well, I wonder what's coming next. All that combined, and it also does go into the crafting system because it does take crafting mats here and there, and it's not just a straight here you get this. So it's a good system. I actually do like it a lot, and it does take away the RNG. Is that something? Because I know you guys negotiate a lot with Triant or XL about things and systems. Like, we're seeing at 3.5 or 3.1, whatever the heck you want to call it, that the RNG is pretty much gone from the crafting system. Is that something that you guys kind of heavily push for, less RNG, and then they're kind of finally accepting now? Or
XL has the unique challenge to deal with gameplay from North America, Europe, China, Japan, and Russia. All of us want different things. I think that across the board, the RNG in Archeage has been toned down. We're huge advocates across for toning down RNG. You can see it in things like our costume system, even with gliders, drastically lower RNG than Korea. I'm not going to say that we're a primary force in the RNG adjustments that may come in the future, but it's definitely something we support and are happy with.
Very cool. So with that, let's go to 3.5, because that's everything is all about 3.5 right now.
How many passes did I get?
Oh damn, guys, he's not going to talk about 3.5. So my big issue or concern or just wants is it seems like every major patch now since 2.0, there's been massive system changes. So 2.0 had these Obsidian craziness. 2.5, I can't recall what changed, but there was some big changes. And then 3.0, obviously massive changes with the vocation, the farming systems. With 3.5, we're getting a massive overhaul of like the crafting system and all that right there. And then it just seems like almost XL is like beta testing different versions and seeing which one is the absolute best, and then moving forward. With 3.5, it seems like it would be ideal for a new server. Is that something that like you guys are thinking about, talking about at all? Because I know they're releasing a new one for their new players they have in Korea, but that's because they're getting this partnership, I guess, with Nexon, I think it is. So, thoughts on potential new servers for 3.5?
Okay, so no, probably no.
Probably not.
It's too close. Too close to 3.0 for us. About information on 3.5, the reason I don't really want to talk about it a lot in depth right now is I just don't want to misspeak. The way it works is XL has their design process. We give input to them while that design process is occurring, but ultimately we don't see the systems in their final form until they're released in Korea. The second it's released, we start learning about them, not just from a public perspective. We get the build and start dissecting those mechanics. I don't want to misspeak because things might change in Korea before we get it, and then we might also modify things. So we're going to have to wait about 2 more months for details there. I say no to a new fresh start server with 3.5 because I don't believe in releasing them closer than 6 months.
And then the estimate is about summer right now for 3.5-ish?
It's generally about a 6-month process that we're behind them.
Not bad at all.
And that's longer than other regions. One of the reasons we go last is because we translate to French and German, and it's a simultaneous launch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of words and stuff that people don't necessarily see.
It's a massive undertaking, yes.
Yes. So one last question here on 3.5, since I don't think I'm going to get much out of you, sadly. How accurate or close are the translations coming out? Are they fairly accurate? Because we got a lot of great translators out there, Percy specifically, and then Diet Fanta. Like, they're doing an amazing job, in my opinion. Is it pretty decent information that you're seeing?
I've worked on, I'd say, this is my 5th localized title as a publisher. A lot of the previous titles have originated from Japan or China, and now Korea. Archeage has the highest level of quality when it comes to localization of any product I've worked on. That's not, it's mostly due, that all of the credit there goes to Amazonia and Khrolan. You've seen Khrolan on a stream, maybe Amazonia too, but they are meticulous in the way that they spend their time localizing Archeage. We're talking spend personal time on it, they have a passion invested in it, and it really manifests. Like the quests that you read, a lot of that flavor and stuff that's added there by Khrolan is not in the original version. It's very cut and dry, and we add a lot of flavor.
Like they're asking, when is the Khrolan live stream? Like,
you know, Khrolan's a hero.
Time.
He can live stream whenever he wants, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, we really value him and her, and they pour their heart out into Archeage, and it comes across in the quality. You know, a lot of people, when I talk to them, they don't even know it's a Korean game. They think that the VOs from an NPC they interact with is just flavor for the type of game. So I'm really proud of it. There are, of course, things that slip through every once in a while, or something that's mistranslated. Sometimes we struggle with things like an error message, right? Like you'll get an error message that says like, cannot invite while in Dominion, or must be trade pack. And it's completely irrelevant to the error that you're causing, but it's because the Korean is very similar in both of those, and that string is referenced in multiple locations. So you'll see things like that, but when it comes down to just consistency with names, Archeage is the best that I've seen.
I think more of the question though, like, Khrolan's awesome, everyone loves Khrolan, but like, have you seen the translations coming out of Korea, right, from the fans, like Percy and them? How are they fairly accurate? Like, obviously they're gonna not get everything, but how, you can say, like, you know, fairly accurate?
You know, with 3.5, I think a good amount of the Tryon creators have been really going hard on seeing the stuff in Korean. I think they do a great job, and I mean, they see it and translate it aggressively. I think a lot of them use, you know, automated translation services, so you're going to have the natural problems with that sort of thing. But it's a good first pass. It's definitely something that's readable, and I think their stuff is worth looking at.
Yeah, it's amazing. So definitely, if you haven't checked out, Percy Meets Archeage is amazing. I'm going to link that down below for you guys. Check out that site. All the great people. There's tons and tons of people that are collabing, working together on that. So I'll give Khrolan one last question here. Just pitch Archeage. Why should people play Archeage?
Archeage has something for everybody, right? Whenever I talk to people about Archeage, I ask them what MMO do they play, or what MMOs have they played. And the reason I ask that is so I can explain what part of Archeage they'll like. And I have an easy time doing that. No matter what MMO they play, there's always something in Archeage for them to like. Also, you can check it out and play it for free. There's no upfront cost. With MMOs these days, to be able to play an MMO with no upfront cost is a pretty awesome thing, especially when it has the level of depth and history that Archeage does. So, I invite people to try it out. If it's not your thing, you can move on. But there's no upfront investment to do so. You're playing as Khrolan.
Yes.
Open
Khrolan.
my inventory.
And then this is the new area for the raid boss.
Yeah,
correct?
we're in Reedland currently.
Oh, look at all these stuff.
Have fun, Jason. Go for it.
So look at all these weapons.
I know. Let me know if you're like doing.
Oh, well, since we have this here, these guys, these new anchoring emblems, like,
Yep.
pretty much they're unobtainable in our version because it's so expensive. Like, is there going to be a change in all this system?
Nope, it's going to remain expensive, and people will eventually get there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all your time and everything, and I can't wait to see the zone and actually see the boss here.
Yeah.
This is
And
going to be cool.
Before anybody freaks out, this is PTS.
Oh, this is
It's
BTS.
not a live server because they see my inventory, and yeah. No, but Jason, thanks for spending the time to talk to me. I always look forward to meeting up with you at PAX. And just
I will
hi to
see you at
everybody
East.
who's watching Jason's videos. It's great to be able to talk to you guys like this. So,
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe.